This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. So excited to be speaking with Jason Isaacs about The White Lotus. How are you, Jason?
I'm pretty good. I'm slightly overwhelmed by how much interest there has been in the White Lotus because I never experienced anything like it before. I'm currently in Los Angeles doing a bit of publicity for a film that's come out actually, and it just gets stopped. Everybody in the street wants to talk about it. It's not because they go, "Oh, you're an actor, you're in that thing." They want to tell you what it was like for them, what it was like for them meeting every week or having a watching party. Or, just happened to me again. It's kind of it's overwhelming. It's what a gift it's been.
I assume they're surprised to hear you respond back to them in a slightly different accent than the one they've heard
Well,
on
not if
TV.
they knew me from other things. I mean, I've been around for twice as long as you've been alive, I think. So numbers of people have seen me in other things. But yes, numbers of people, many people are surprised that I'm English because I've mostly played Americans actually for the last 20 years.
I would say I first saw you on Brotherhood, and so I discovered shortly after that. But that's it. So I think this is one step up for an American, regional accent.
Well, no, excuse me, Brotherhood is a Rhode Island accent. It's very specific and very weird and different from Boston. So people go, I remember the Boston actors couldn't do Rhode Island. I'm like, it's just up the road. How come? It's because American actors generally don't have to do accents. If you're a British actor, you need to learn to do accents because in England we judge people by how they talk, not just where they are regionally, but socioeconomically. Everything about someone is apparent from their dialect. And so it's a tool we work on. But American actors, wonderful American actors, never really do accents.
I will say I'm actually from in between Boston and Providence, and I this
Oh,
is what
yeah.
I sound like. So, but I don't think it's not very strong,
Yours is
certainly.
not very regional. No, no.
Well, so what was your experience with the White Lotus before, this newfound popularity?
My experience is that my wife and kids watched it during initially during COVID, and because I was always washing up, I missed the first few episodes. Though they wouldn't let me come in the room because they said, "No, Dad, you've got to start from the beginning." But they never gave the TV up, so I didn't get to catch up on it. And then season two came around. I was excited because I'd heard it was great. And I knew they'd liked it the first time. They wouldn't let me watch until I'd seen season one. So when I got offered the job, I'm afraid to say that I lied to Mike and Dave Bernard, the producer, and told them how brilliant I thought it was. And then I watched it, and it turns out it is just as good as I'd said it was. So I felt all right about it. That was my experience. But I had no clue. I don't think anybody involved had any clue that it would somehow catch fire this season three and become what it became around the world. And so the cast had been sent off to the four corners of the earth to help publicize it. And it landed in a country thinking, oh, well, it's not going to be obviously as big here. It's a TV program. And you get there and the whole hotels would be converted. There'd be big crowds everywhere. And it just became, I don't know why or how. Obviously, Mike White is a brilliant writer, and I think he's a wonderful director as well. But something happened where it just caught the wind in the zeitgeist, and people were engaged by the characters and the dilemmas, and they identified with one or other of the people, and they were desperate to know or to voice their opinion about what should happen. It's been an extraordinary thing to. I mean, I've been around as an actor. I've been around a long time, and I've been a few things that have been, quite popular over the years, and I've never seen anything like this ever.
Yes, I was going back. I was excited to talk to you because again, I've seen you in a lot of things. There's really so much stuff, and I hope that people, because the White Lotus is not that many episodes,
I don't know.
that there will be people will seek you out, and those who do
Oh,
not know,
seek out my
follow you.
back catalog. Sure. Well, frankly, I think the algorithms bring you up on a streamer, whoever you're watching. You end up getting force-fed their stuff, whether you like it or not. But we'll see.
Well, I have some back catalog stuff to discuss a little later, but I first want to ask you, what do you like about Timothy? Because he's really going through a rough spot.
Oh, I don't think if I like someone or I don't like them, I just am them. That's my job is to be them in that situation. I mean, he loves his kids, and also what do I like about him? In the end, he reached for the light. He was taken to a very dark and very lonely place. And I understand why, because of the pressure inside and also the the fear of the disgrace and the shame and the humility that was going to be enforced on him and his wife, for instance, who lives only for that. He has a working life or had a working life. The fall from grace is going to kill her, he thinks, and she says. And then one by one, his kids say that too, apart from Lachlan. And when he is about to kill them, something in him remembers the words of the monk, and something in him thinks that actually embracing their fate and surrendering to re-entering the human race and just being one of the mass will be the best and most humbling thing for them. So I guess the thing I like about him most is that something rather transcendent and beautiful emerged from this rather grotesque creature in the end.
I like
What
that.
I like about
Yeah.
playing him is a different thing. I mean, that playing him was an interesting challenge as an actor because I didn't have words most of the time, and mostly scenes are about hope. What do you want? What are you after? And then when I've directed and stuff, you go, you're not after anything, and an actor will go, I want to leave the room. I go, that's not a scene. What makes you stay in the room? But for Tim, by the time you get to episode 3 or maybe episode 4, all hope has gone. Like his normal solutions to problems, like throw money at it, throw lawyers at it, terrify people, bribe them, they're not going to work. He's handed the phones in. He knows that come when they leave on the last day, they're all going into the abyss. And so his mind is no longer looking for solutions, and his mind is but he's not thinking because he's an alpha male. So the challenge was, how the hell do I just not be the idiot in the corner that looks like he's stoned? Like, how do I keep it alive? And then I knew what was coming in episode eight, and I thought, it's a strange thing to say about acting. It's not real, it's pretend, but it's as real as you can make it as an actor. And I needed to believe that I needed to kill my family because I love them and myself. I needed to get to that place emotionally as much as I could. Otherwise, the audience is not going to believe it. I just make the shape of it from the outside with a kind of bold edge. It's going to look ridiculous. And I knew there were magnificent actors doing great work in it, people I admire, doing much more realistic things. I've got this huge melodramatic thing to pull off. So as an actor, what do I like about Tim? I can tell you, a human being. As an actor, what did I like about playing Tim? It was a fucking terrifying nightmare. I didn't know I could pull any of it off, and I didn't want to be the worst actor in White Lotus and be in the storyline that no one believed. So it was kind of scary, exciting and scary.
I think you did pull it off very well. And I've
Very good. Oh,
also
sorry, I wasn't trying to elicit praise.
no, but I understand. Yeah.
That was the task at hand. And also
Yeah.
there's one other thing I remember only realizing when I was there, um, which is that acting is about being present, being in the moment with people always, and that's why the best performances you ever see are off camera. Because off camera, people are really engaging with you, and then when on camera, sometimes people fall into oh, this is the bit where I fill in the blank. This is the bit where I cry. This is the bit where I'm angry, and they're not really connecting. But Tim's not connecting with anyone. And I didn't know how to be in this magnificent drama where people are continually affecting each other and no one affected me because I know that they're living in a false world. I've taken the blue pill, they've taken the red, and they are all coming off the cliff with me. And so, how do I make those scenes alive when I'm not really listening or caring because they're living in a false world? So that was about playing Tim.
Well, you are surrounded by some really terrific people, and Parker Posey, I think people have really lapped onto her. She is an American doing an accent. That's certainly something that's not, what she sounds
Yeah,
like
but she's not from
exactly.
Durham. No, the accent was very specifically Durham, North Carolina, which is very actually my accent's different from hers because he's blue-blooded. He's a Ratliff, and he can trace his family back to the Mayflower. His grandfather was governor, so there are a couple of sounds that those very wealthy kind of those inherited American aristocrats hold on to from the colonial days, which are very British. There's a couple of vowel sounds that Parker didn't necessarily come from there, so she had license to do whatever she wanted.
What can you say about her as a scene partner?
Well, I didn't connect with her. I mean, Tim doesn't connect with Victoria at all. He doesn't connect with anyone. Later on, he connects with his children. So uh, it was odd doing scenes with someone who I've seen work so much, but just she's in her own world, out of her head on drugs when we get there, and then I am. So it's sometimes you work with people and you really feel like, oh, you're married, or you feel like you really get to know each other. But I didn't listen to her, and she barely listened to me or looked at me when we were, chugging the pills. So it's an odd experience. I felt like I got much closer to Patrick and Sam and Sarah Catherine because he really connects with his children.
And they're certainly at the, much closer to the beginning of their careers. What do you see in the future for them?
Oh, I love them. I mean, when we got there, I was pretty lonely because my wife hadn't arrived yet, and we were given these giant villas, which looked very glamorous. I did a lot of FaceTiming and showing off, but the truth is, I was lonely. And Patrick, Sam, and Sarah Catherine adopted me, and they came and we just watched TV and we played games and we laughed and had food and we went out on day trips all the time. Parker was in another villa with the older lady, so we didn't really mix with her. And that early bonding just stayed. And because I didn't see their scenes, I read the scripts obviously, but I didn't see them do their stuff. I was so thrilled watching it. I mean, it's not like I don't have my own daughters who I love and worship, but they became kind of like my kids, and I was so proud of them when I saw them. They're all launched stratospherically as performers and as as personalities, I think. And it's really, I mean, so excited about what's coming for them.
Would you like to imagine what happens next for Timothy, or is it better to just sort of leave it where it
Well, I
ended?
mean, that's the great thing about drama, about Mike's writing, is there are many things that could happen. I mean, the most likely he thinks he's going to go to jail. What's going to happen to the family? At least he'll get a roof over his head and 3 meals a day. What's going to happen to the family when they lose a house and the car and the cell phone and everything else? They're going to have to get jobs and they're going to have to recalibrate their entire life plan, which at that moment on the boat, when he sees the water drops going back into the ocean, thinks will be the best thing that could have ever happened to them, and that everything that's happened to them so far has actually ruined them for life, and that they'll rediscover what it is to be a human being, but it's not going to be easy. On the other hand, of course, his friend the president might make a phone call and pardon him. Anything could happen.
Oh, that's true. Well, as I mentioned before,
Changed.
there's so
I would say he's changed. Like, well, actors want numbers of things. What is the best thing you can have as an actor is a secret. You want secrets. I did a season of Star Trek Discovery. I had a huge secret. I'm not spoil it for people. Did a series called Awake on NBC years ago that you won't remember, but I had giant secrets in that, and I didn't think the world I was in was real. Tim's got a secret, but he also changes. Like, he is an entirely different man. And Mike's too good a writer to give people these giant redemptive changes. And most of the characters don't change a lot. I mean, they might change a little bit. Maybe will the change stick? Who knows? Tim has had like a massive Damascene spiritual conversion. The very thing he's not slightly interested in. He's the one guy who gets there and goes, "Look, I don't give a fuck about all this. I'm just going to go to the gym. Don't bother me with all all this weird wellness stuff." And of course, that's because Mike being so clever, he's the one person that has a huge 180 degrees personality change, which was just it was a feast.
I did watch Awake. I do remember Awake.
Really? Wow.
Of course, yeah. Well, I'm into this. That said, I think Brotherhood. Brotherhood was 20 years ago now. I think 2004, something like that, 2007, something.
2005, 7, and 8. Yeah.
So yeah, 20 years ago, and I feel like that's a show that really feels like it probably could still be made today. Like, it doesn't feel like
Oh,
it was probably ahead of its time in a lot of ways. And I also love seeing Jason, the other Jason Clark, just the way his career has gone, because you guys have both sort of popped up in all these different roles. How do you look back on that show?
it was a really magical time actually because this is going to sound like a non sequitur. My wife used to make documentaries. She's a novelist now, but she used to make documentaries. And she was at a magical time at the BBC where there was a department that made documentaries the whole country watched. And the commissioning editor would say, "Make whatever you like." And so she'd come in and go, "I want to make a film about friendship." Fine. I want to make a film where I follow a prostitute. Fine. I want to make a film about the underbelly of acting. Fine. About weekend homes and no budget, no schedule, no nothing. And the thing about Brotherhood is at the center of it is a very powerful premise. These two brothers, loosely based on the Bulger brothers. I'm a gangster, but I have a very moral, rigid, ethical universe that I adhere to. Things matter to me. I've got a brother who's a politician who has extremely questionable morals, and that's at the heart of it. And we both love family, but beyond that, there was no case of the week. There was no thing that needed to be resolved. There was some things were ongoing stories. Some things happened within the week. Some things ended badly. Some things ended well. There was no redemptive stuff. The writers were given their head to do whatever they felt like doing that week. Really doesn't happen on television very, very much. It happened on the OA. I was in that wonderful series, the OA on Netflix with a Brit that people still come up to me about and talk all the time. They wrote that first season on spec. So you don't feel any development in it. It's the story they wanted to tell their way. And the same with Brotherhood is like, whatever happened that week. And these characters are interesting enough and it's dramatic enough. We don't need to tie things up in a bow at the end. And I didn't realize how lucky I was until that finished and I started doing other shows, which were far more formulaic. And it doesn't mean they're bad, but they're my favorite saying about the development process. I've sold a few TV shows and stuff. That's not my original saying, is that a camel is a horse made by a committee. There's just too many smart people with all of their ideas what should happen. And you have to listen to them. They're giving you the money, and the thing ends up just a fraction of what it could be. And Brotherhood knew what it was. It won a Peabody Award for that reason.
I do want to go a little deeper to a show that I think was on before that I know I saw later, which is The State Within.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's one which I still remember the intensity of one of the early opening scenes. And then I think it is one of the best, like, cut to credit scenes at the very end. that also, that it's like, I think that Bodyguard is probably something that was like, sort of spawned from that a little bit. But I just don't, that there's something so incredible and intense about that show that I just really, really loved.
Well, they spent a third of the budget on the opening scene. A third of the budget of these 4 hours of expensive drama went on the opening 10 minutes, which was a terrorist attack on a plane explosion, and the aftermath of it. Um, and it was I was playing the British ambassador, and I met the British ambassador. And he told me a lot about what they did and what life was like. And one of the great privileges of my life, working life, which may or may not end up ever appreciated by an audience or on the screen, but I appreciate, is that people give you access to their lives, and you get to, they tell you things they wouldn't tell a journalist. They tell you things they haven't told their family. And whether it's an ambassador or a crook, when I did Brotherhood, sort of to leap around, I was on Federal Hill, the Italian area of Rhode Island once. And the great mafia kingpin boss was a guy called Raymond Patriarchi, who had been the boss of all the families. And he'd been built, his office built out of a dry cleaners on Federal Hill. And at the time, Whitey Bulger was still free, and he was the most wanted guy in the FBI. And I was playing a thin version of him. Guys in the restaurant comes out and goes, "Hey, this guy wants to say hello to you in the kitchen." I said, "Oh, you can tell him to come outside. It'd be great." And he goes, "Yeah, he can't come out front. He's a friend of Raymond's." And I went, "Right, right. Okay, well, because he knows I'm an actor, right? An English actor." And he goes, "Yeah, I go in. There's a guy being cooked for in the kitchen, half in shadows. I mean, if it was a scene from The Godfather, you wouldn't be surprised." And he goes, "I just want to give you a message to the guy you're playing. I know him. Likes what you're doing. Keep doing it." I'm like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, but the privilege of being able to hang out with politicians, or I was with the heart. I played a heart surgeon, and I got to watch and be in some operations, and the many soldiers and the many policemen who've given access to their lives, and the ambassador, British ambassador, told me stuff that he wouldn't put he had a famous autobiography, stuff he didn't put in the book. So that was a real privilege. I don't know how much of it came in the show, but I was very friendly with Dan, who wrote it, so some stuff ended up in the script. But yeah, it was all. I'll tell you a story about that because I don't know if it's relevant for this, but you can edit it out if you like. But it's a plane crash, and we had lots of extras. I think we had amputees, we had a lot of blood and stuff. And my daughter was, oh my God, I guess she was 3 or 4 at the time, and she was with us for 6 months there in Canada. And I said, "Do you want to come to work tomorrow, love? It's a very exciting thing. There's all fake stuff." And I said to the stunt guys, "Do you think it's disturbing to bring a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old in to watch?" And they went, "No, no, our kids grew up around this stuff. They'll love it." So she comes in and she sees what we're doing. I show her how it's all done, how the fire's done, and how the blood is done and stuff. And then she goes back in the afternoon to kindergarten. The next day was a day off for me, or whatever it was. And I went to pick her up. And all the teachers were lined up. And the parents look at them. They're all staring at me like I'm naked. I'm like, they go, "Mr. Isaacs, can we have a word, please?" And I go, yeah. And they go, "Lily came back to work yesterday. She said she saw a woman die." I went, "For, oh, what with me?" "Yes." And she said she tasted the blood and it was sweet. And I went, "Yeah, I'm an actor." And they went, "Oh, oh." They were about to call the police, and they thought that Lily was telling them I'd murdered someone. But it was a very powerful piece, and it was a labyrinthian plot, and things weren't streamed in those days. And it reminded me in some ways of Dig. I did the Gideon Raff and Tim Kring series Dig in 2015, I think, which was a fantastically well-written, complicated plot, but it wasn't streamed. So if you missed episode 1, you couldn't catch up, and so it didn't get the audience that it deserves. And I remember doing the State Within, thinking, God, I hope we get people on episode 1 because no one's jumping in episode 2. They wouldn't have a clue what's going on.
I might have watched it on DVD. I don't know. I
Oh,
don't
okay, that's
remember
also
where
a good idea.
but at some point back in the past.
I
But
also remember it got nominated. So did I. Got nominated for Golden Globes, and they cancelled the ceremony that year. And
uh,
we were all deeply bitter, but it was all right because I lost anyway.
well, you've done so much great stuff, and a lot of it is, very serious. Mass is another great example. But I remember seeing The Death of Stalin, and you just show up in this boisterous, aggressive, like over the top way. Do you have aspirations to do more like
Oh
comedy like
God,
that?
well, I have aspirations to do great stuff, and I'm not overly modest particularly, but I'm not stupid. When I'm lucky enough to be in something that is brilliantly written, I get the credit due to the writer. I mean, we're all in White Lotus. Everyone's getting a ton of attention. It's Mike. Mike gave us these three-dimensional, rich human beings to play. And we're lucky that we did, and everybody else in it. I don't want to talk about myself, but there's magnificent performances in it because we get these magnificent characters. Armando Iannucci, who created Veep, wrote Death of Stalin with a couple with Ian and Peter as well. And I was surrounded by my comedy heroes. It's a work of utter genius. And for some bizarre reason, I don't know why, I have the best part in it. Like I arrive an hour in when all these comedy geniuses, you've seen them for an hour, and I come in like a bunch. What was odd for me is that I was so intimidated or thrilled or overwhelmed or fangirling over the people there. I was fetching them cups of tea and kind of cowering and rubbing my hands, and they were so generous to me, but I felt like I was, a child in the presence of gods. And then they say action, and I'd have to grab them by the balls or slap them around the face or pull them by the hair or abuse them terribly. And then they go cut, and I go, I'm so sorry, can I get you another cup of tea? Um, I thought, I mean, I couldn't look Jeffrey Tambor in the eye. I think he's a comedy genius. And Michael Palin was so endlessly patient. He took me through not just every movie, but every episode of the Monty Python TV series. And other people in there who you don't know who are very famous in Britain, would reprise their stuff for me. And it was it was an insane joy to be on the set. Insane. And would I like to do more comedy? I'd like to do anything good. If anybody could write something like Death of Stalin, yeah. Good luck writing something like Death of Stalin. That's all I know. I tell you, I have though. I've met lots of people who haven't watched it because they think it's a serious film about Stalin dying. They go, I didn't see that, but you did a film about Stalin dying. So what was that like? And I go, it's a comedy. And they go, no, is it? I go, did you look at the posters? It's a comedy and it works because it's true. Not only everything that happened in it, but the resonance of the monstrosity of the cult of personality you see playing out today in America. You can see the same cabinet meetings where the camera goes around. Each person has to pledge their allegiance to, their king and fealty to the king. So there were numbers of things in that film that seemed so grotesque. They were not only true, but what I've seen them played out here. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that the rest of it doesn't get played out.
I know you have so much incredible stuff coming up soon. I saw the Salt Path in Toronto last year. I know that's on its
It doesn't
way.
have an American. Yes, that's true. That doesn't have an American distributor yet, and I don't know why. It's such a beautiful film. It's such a positive film. It's so inspiring. It's the greatest love story I've ever been anywhere near. The real people in real life are so. They're ordinary people who have done extraordinary things, and it just makes you believe in. Makes you believe in nature. Makes you believe in love. Makes you believe in people, kindness of people. It's like it's the opposite to many of the other toxic things that I've done. It's such a beautiful story. Anyway, I hope someone buys it from America soon, but it's coming out in England in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
And I haven't yet. I've gotten a lot of emails, but haven't yet seen, Words of War and Juliet and Romeo. But I know we're almost out of time, so I wanted to ask you, what have you seen
I
recently on
can go on.
TV?
Don't worry. I've got a thing at 4 o'clock. It's 2:20. I'm fine. Don't worry. I mean, Tori probably wants to jump off and go and get lunch, but I can chat.
I wanted to ask you, what have you seen recently on TV? What has really stuck with you?
Well, as a family, we're rewatching Parenthood. Uh, I am led by what my kids are watching because I want to sit on the couch with them. I did something really stupid during COVID. They decided for some reason they wanted to watch all of Grey's Anatomy from the beginning, and uh, and I thought, well, other people I knew were having film clubs, because everyone was locked in their house forever, and I wanted my kids. One of mine wants to be a director. And I was a little bit snippy about it, like, come on, I'm watching that, and anyway, I was in the kitchen all the time washing up because they like to cook and I was always washing up. And I didn't sit and share that with them. I watched some of it with them, but I was kind of constantly pushing against it. In retrospect, it was selfish and stupid. I love my kids. It was a very insecure time. No one knew if that was ever going to be over, lockdown, and what the world was ever going to return. It was, my eldest was meant to be having her first year at university, and she had been locked in the house of the parents. And it was stupid of me. So now, whatever they want to watch, whenever they want to watch it, I sit and watch it with them. So we're sitting watching and just basking in the glory of Jason Caton's ability to bring a family together and make them cry and make them laugh. And so it's known as Le Clan Braverman in Montreal, where my daughter's at university. And so we constantly watch Le Clan Braverman together and sit and weep. And both Emma and I are terrible criers, and our kids are so embarrassed at how easily we cry in public too, at music or at drama. But on the couch, they love it. So we're watching that together. Also, there's a million. I may not watch a million other things. I've just finished because I was on the I did a round table of actors recently. I watched what all those actors are watching. Now I don't do one of anything. I'm going to have to finish all of their series. I'd already seen all of Severance. I'd already seen all of The Diplomat. But I'm now going to have to watch Paradise because with Sterling K. Brown, who was great. What was the other thing I had seen? Oh, I don't know. But somebody somewhere I met the actress in that, and I think that's fabulous. I loved that. Loved Hacks. I know I watch a lot of foreign television programs, a lot of foreign films as well. Not because they're better, but because they have different narrative paradigms. When I watch something made in the West, because I've been in those development meetings, I somehow think I know where the story is going to go, and most of the time it does. It doesn't mean it's not well done. I don't enjoy it. But when I remember the first time I saw Old Boy, thinking, what the fuck? Is this a comedy? Is it an action movie? Is it a psychodrama? What the hell's going on? And then I saw Parasite, and I got a chance to talk to Bong Joon-ho afterwards, and I said, "Did you get the right to make this film, which is defies genre so much because you've been successful before? Because you made Okja and various other things." And he said, "No, we don't believe in these Western ideas, this Aristotelian narrative stuff, this Robert McKean, structure. Like, we just don't stick in these boxes in Korea." And so one of the reasons I watch so many foreign things is because I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what story they're going to tell or how they're going to tell it. And I'm a little bit wise to what we do in the West.
So you just have such a passion for all this stuff, which is really very
Oh, stories.
infectious.
I'll tell you what, I think stories more than ever. Now with AI, you can fake anything. So there's going to be wars and terrible trouble and news organizations who are already struggling to be believed because this administration, others have so undermined faith in proper, legitimate journalism where they find three independent sources of corroboration. And because people won't go to, and unfortunately are less and less supporting financially, proper, great journalism, speaking the truth to power and to all of us, fiction can touch you, can reach you, can bypass your partisan foxhole that you're living in, and can inspire you and can give us, templates for how to live our life and how to deal with dilemmas. And so fiction is important. It feels more important than ever.
Well, thank you so much, Jason, for spending so much time with me, and I'm excited to you have so much coming out soon. I hope we'll have another chance to talk sometime soon.
I hope we will. I hope you'll see it and you still want to talk to me. That's what I hope.
And I
Thanks.
also just wanted after just to thank you for wearing your hostages pin all the time. I'm sure that can be an isolating thing in the world today. But
What I want to know is, do you wear yours?
um, my parents do. I haven't really worn it, but that's just because I should.
That's
Yeah,
the only answer. That's the only answer. Hundreds of people came up to me in Washington and said, "Thank you for wearing the pin." I went, "Why are you saying that? Why aren't you wearing one?" If you believe in it, completely apolitical. It's about innocent people who are not, who are civilians, many of them, who are peace activists, who worked all the time and drove people from Gaza into, and they're being held in tunnels, no access to the Red Cross, starved, tortured, raped, beaten, executed. Why isn't everybody in the world wearing one? It shouldn't just be me. So thank you for
I
thank
feel like
you. Forget your thank yous.
it's
Get yourself a pin tomorrow and wear it.
I feel like it's all I consume on social media. Always engaging, but that is a yes. I should do that. That's true.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank
Bye.
you, Jason. I so appreciate it. Take care.